Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today. This is your primetime destination. News, newsmakers, talking points. And we have plenty to talk about tonight. First, the Modi-Xi meeting, the first between India and China's principles in 5 years. What explains this thaw in India-China ties and what are the implications? Also, as hoax bomb threats hit Indian Airlines, the Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu will be among my special guests tonight. He will be joining me to tell us what is his ministry doing about it. All that and much more lies ahead on the news today. But the breaking news at the top tonight is about the Maha mess in Maharashtra, where officially the Maha Vikas Aghadi claims to have sealed a seat-sharing deal, but sources telling India today that there is plenty still to resolve for them. The seat sharing, according to the MBA, which is the opposition there, has been finalized for 270 out of 288 seats. The Sena, Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray, NCP, Sharad Pawar and Congress are to fight as per this formula on 85 seats each. But that's 255, which leaves 33 seats still to be resolved. The Aghadi claims they will allot around 10 seats to the smaller allies they have, and talks on the 23 remaining seats are to be held. Meanwhile, we are told that Devendra Fadnavis, Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar and Chief Minister Eknath Shinde may fly into Delhi to meet Home Minister Amit Shah to resolve the seat-sharing issues for the ruling Mahayuti. Let's go straight across to Sahil Joshi. Sahil, we are calling it the Maha mess because the fact is that even though the Mahavikas Aghadi claims that they have finalized the seat-sharing formula, I am told there are several seats on which there is still a dispute.
Well, this is the knot which is taking a lot of time to untie because the Mahavikas Aghadi is doing meetings after the meetings. Even today, the Congress leaders were expecting that the Shiv Sena will come back to them and they can have a joint press conference by 4:30. But Shiv Sena leaders did not respond since morning 11 o'clock. Now, what has happened is that there are certain seats which Shiv Sena insists that they are going to fight, and the Congress thinks that it is not, it is unfair on Congress that they will just have to give it up the way it happened in the Lok Sabha elections, and that is where the things are stuck. But also there is another angle to this, is that there are smaller partners like Peasants and Workers Party, the PWP, Samajwadi Party and the Communist Party, Marxist, also needs to be accommodated, and that's what Sharad Pawar came into play. And then he finally told the Mahavikas Aghadi leaders that at least go in front of the media, have a joint press conference, at least tell them that till where you have reached and how are you going to accommodate the smaller parties like PWP, Samajwadi Party and the Communist Party.
I'm told, Sahil,
so that is, yeah.
I'm told, Sahil, it's the Shiv Sena UBT which is bargaining tough, which wants more seats, especially in Mumbai, for example, Bandra East, which is a seat won by Congress. They want that seat.
Yeah.
On the other side, on the Mahayuti side, is it all much more smooth? I'm told Amit Shah is going to hold a meeting of the Mahayuti leaders also either tonight or tomorrow.
Well, as I said yesterday, from both the sides, the Shiv Senas are creating a lot of ruckus. They are holding on to the seats which they are demanding. Now, interestingly, there are 163 seats which the Mahavikas Aghadi was leading in the Lok Sabha elections, where 163 assembly segments where Mahavikas Aghadi was leading, and all the three parties wants to have the maximum pie out of this 163 seats, and that's where the problem is happening. On the other hand, in Mahayuti, Eknath Shinde is bargaining very hard. He is looking at the number. He wants at least 90 seats, which seems to be impossible at this point of time. So he wants to reach to a level where he can at least cross the 80 mark, where he could see eye to eye with the Shiv Sena UBT and claim that, look, even I am almost equal to you. And that is where the bargaining is getting very hard. Even in Mumbai, Mumbai has become quite contentious because the BJP wants to have more number of seats now because they think that they can have a better chance of winning certain seats, whereas the Eknath Shinde, he thinks that he will do better in Thane, but at the same time he wants his pie in Mumbai as well, and that is why the things are getting stuck. As you have rightly said in the beginning, that Eknath Shinde, who was in Kudal, Narendra Rane's son Nilesh Rane was joining Shiv Sena, and after that now he's flying directly to Delhi. There again Devendra Fadnavis, Eknath Shinde and Ajit Pawar will have a meeting with Amit Shah to finalize the final formula for Shiv Sena, BJP and NCP as well. So that is,
Right.
the fight is going on there as well.
So basically, it's the two Senas on either side, Eknath Shinde's Sena and UBT Sena, which are turning out to be difficult partners as of now to deal with. As I said, Sahil and my home state should be renamed from Maharashtra to Maha Mess at the moment ahead of this election. We'll see how that plays out. Sahil Joshi joining me at the top of the show. Let me from there turn to the story which is our top story of the day. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping holding their first bilateral in 5 years in Russia's Kazan today. This one-on-one meeting comes just days after the two countries announced a breakthrough in the talks over the border in Ladakh, the line of actual control. Prime Minister Modi emphasizing on mutual peace, respect and trust as the foundation for stable bilateral ties. Will the Chinese, though, be trusted? That's the big question. Take a look.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping hold their first bilateral meeting in nearly 5 years. The meeting that took place on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Russia marks a significant thaw in the ties between the countries that plummeted after the violent clashes in Galwan Valley in 2020.
भारत और चीन के संबंधों का महत्व केवल हमारे लोगों के लिए ही नहीं, लेकिन वैश्विक शांति, स्थिरता और प्रगति के लिए भी हमारे संबंध बहुत अहम है.
Welcoming the recent agreement on patrolling along the line of actual control, Prime Minister Modi emphasized the importance of managing differences without disturbing peace.
सीमा पर शांति और स्थिरता बनाए रखना हमारी प्राथमिकता रहनी चाहिए. म्यूचुअल ट्रस्ट, म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट और म्यूचुअल सेंसिटिविटी हमारे संबंधों का आधार बने रहना चाहिए.
President Xi called for enhanced communication and cooperation between India and China, highlighting their roles as major developing nations and members of the Global South.
It's important for both sides to have more communication and cooperation, properly handle our differences and disagreements, and to facilitate each other's pursuit of development aspirations. It's also important for both sides to shoulder our international responsibility, set an example for boosting the strength and unity of the developing countries.
Later, the MEA announced that the special representatives of the two countries will renew talks that have been in deep freeze since 2019.
Special representative of India, Mr. Ajit Doval, who is also the National Security Advisor, and the special representative of the People's Republic of China, Foreign Minister Wang Yi, also a member of the Politburo, have met on the sidelines of international events. So following today's meeting, we hope to schedule the next round of the SR's talks at an appropriate date.
The meeting in Kazan marks a significant step in mending ties, especially since no bilateral discussions on trade, economics and other issues have occurred in the last 5 years. During the period, the two leaders only had brief interactions at the G20 summit in Indonesia in November 2022 and the BRICS summit in South Africa in August 2023.
So there was a smile, there was a handshake, but there wasn't a hug. And this shows that there is still no meeting of the minds between India and China, and it will take some time for India to start trusting China once again. For China needs to work a lot more to build that trust. And once again, a new beginning is being made, but here it's first verify and then trust. Gaurav Sawant in Kazan, Russia for India Today.
Let's raise the big questions then. Can India really trust China? What explains this thaw in India-China ties at this moment? Is the Modi-Xi meet a signal to the West? Will India now go ahead and invite Chinese investments once again in sectors like telecom? These are some of the questions I will raise. Aina Tangen, American-Chinese political and economic affairs commentator, spoke to me a short while ago from Beijing. I'll be playing that out. KC Singh, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, is with us. Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Chief of Staff at 14 Corps, with us. And Anand Krishnan, adjunct fellow, Institute of Chinese Studies. I appreciate all my guests joining me. Let me come to you, KC, first. Your first reactions. Do you see this as a major thaw? The agreement as of now seems high on optics but low on details. Disengagement, de-escalation still remain tricky issues. Should we be celebrating in any way and welcoming what's happened today in Kazan?
No, I think celebration would be premature, but certainly it's welcome that there's a channel which has opened up. But you can see some of the language which was used. Chinese president said that India should read the historical trends. I don't know what exactly he meant by that. But essentially, look, why has it happened? One of the reasons is the Chinese economy is certainly facing some problems. There's a housing crisis in the housing sector. There are 90 million empty units lying all over China. 80% of the household savings of the people in China have been invested in that. The housing prices have dropped by 30%. The industrial income has dropped by almost 17.6%. So with US Trump looming on the horizon, Europeans also tightening the screws on China, the Indian market becomes very important. So I think Chinese had to swallow their pride and therefore come along. But the question remains, when we say we are reverting back to status quo ante, the details will tell us that, because the Chinese have done a lot of building of infrastructure in the meanwhile. And this is a standard Chinese trick. Even the Israelis do that. If they want till the Litani River in Lebanon, they'll go 10 kilometers further. And then, withdraw to the Litani River and say, okay, Hezbollah will not come beyond this. So Chinese may well have built up the kind of infrastructure where they're comfortable now with India patrolling, and that too, we don't know. I think we have to be telling them, and they tell us. But they may have altered the reality on the ground in the intervening 4 years.
Let me take that to Mr. Tangen. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, President Xi Jinping meeting for the first time in 5 years. Do you think it's a return to the status quo ante on the border? Is that what is going to happen really? That we will go back to a pre-March, pre-April 2020 scenario on the border?
I think it's quite clear that there's going to be a return to the 2020 status quo. There would be no reason to create this kind of excitement if that was not the case. But, what's most important here is it's not just Xi and Modi. It is also Putin, other leaders, people who are interested, 30 countries who want to be part of the BRICS plus movement. Sharp contrast to what's going on with the United States and other places where it's quite clear that people have lost faith in the United States, especially over issues like Ukraine and Gaza.
Lieutenant General Satish Kulkarni, you're hearing these Chinese voices saying that we will return to status quo ante pre-March 2020. Should we trust the Chinese? The army chief yesterday said disengagement, de-escalation still remain on the agenda. The fact, as KC Singh just points out, the Chinese have built substantial infrastructure, especially in the Depsang plains. Can we trust the Chinese? Or are the Chinese playing at the moment once again for short term to try and get some benefits, according to KC, from the Indian markets, possibly also looking at their problems with Taiwan, and therefore we can't trust them for any permanent solution?
Rajdeep, thank you. I think, let's see it a little more positively. And I personally see a positive development because it does cool the nerves along the LAC. The tension goes down. There is no denying the fact. And also, if BRICS have to be seen as non-West and are also coming up with a view to be able to convey to G7 that they matter. It is not a unipolar world, it's a multipolar world. And in that context, we see BRICS, where Chinese are a large contributor with almost $19 trillion economy, and you have 48% of the crude oil production in BRICS. You have about 45% of the world population, 30% of the GDP, and 30 more countries joining it probably become 75% of the world population. With that, Chinese credibility also is at stake. with that, keeping that in mind, I feel let's see positively if once the SRs meet and then the format is made, probably yes, if Chinese want a new beginning, we are there, and as everybody seems, and in China, it is top down. If Xi himself is insisting and wanting it to be done, I think let's try it out, because of course capacity building is essential. Yeah.
You know, Anand Krishnan, interestingly, there were 18 meetings between Xi and Prime Minister Modi between 2014 and 19 till relations went sour. Is this very different? Some of my guests saying that this is a BRICS initiative. I've been hearing that Putin played a major role behind the scenes. Do you see this as a sign of a new arrangement because of an attempt to create a stronger global South, as some are calling it?
No, I would be slightly cautious in taking those grandstand announcements because ultimately this has to play out on the ground, and it's. I mean, the trust is. I mean, the Prime Minister mentions about trust in three aspects in terms of mutual trust and mutual sensitivity and mutual respect, but it's not very clear that the Chinese actually do that on the ground. I mean, the army is, for instance, is somebody. Both the armies are the ones who have to actually implement this on this ground, even though there has been diplomatic parleys. But how it plays out on the ground is actually very important. And as of now, we have very, very sketchy details on how this is going to be. So unless we actually see this action on the ground, only then we can actually say how much of this is actually a resolution. Frankly, as of now, there is nothing to actually say. While this is a positive development, definitely in the last 4 years, but I would be cautious in actually making any kind of big positive moves.
You know, we saw it a bit in the body language, if I may use that, KC Singh. Prime Minister Modi much more enthusiastic. If you see his body language, the Chinese is always far more wary and some would say inscrutable. You mentioned that you believe that China's economic situation is one of the reasons why they are pushing ahead with this meeting. There are others who are saying that China has concerns with Taiwan. They seem to be, you know, Chinese expansionism isn't going to stop, and therefore China needs to ensure that at least the border with India is not a hot border at the moment. How do you see this playing out? Do you believe that the Chinese are in this for the long term with India or for a short term benefit?
Well, it's difficult to say. Chinese always think long term and act short term. But I think what we must remember is that BRICS has been captured now by China and Russia. You see, initially when it began, it was 4 emerging economies. It was just China, Russia, India, and Brazil. Then the Chinese insisted, brought in South Africa, which was really not entitled to be in a large group like this. And then they had Jacob Zuma, their president, who completely destroyed the economy of South Africa. So if you take the South African economy, it was not even entitled to be at the same level as these 4 countries. But the Chinese began diluting the thing. And then that is where then the further expansion takes place. So if UAE comes in, then Iran is brought in. If Egypt comes in, they bring in Ethiopia. And there's another list of people. So it's becoming, and if you read the 134 paragraphs of the statement which has come out, it's almost like a non-aligned summit statement. They cover everything. There are about 3 paras on human rights and democracy. Excuse me, which one of these countries other than India believes in that? I mean, it's ridiculous, the kind of statements in that. Then they talk, a lot of time is spent on Gaza and on Lebanon. There's nothing about Ukraine. Ukraine, they said, all countries have made their national statements in different places. Your host is now sitting quietly watching. And then they're talking of UN Charter and how great statements supporting the UN. And here is Russia, which has attacked a neighboring country and flouted the UN Charter. So, you know, it's essentially a group that Chinese and the Russians want to use as an alternative platform to the US and its allies. Now, India is stuck in both because we are with Quad, we work with the Western sector. Now, you take technology, science and technology, huge number of paras on that. What science and technology cooperation are you going to have with China? You think they're going to share any of their technology, which is cutting edge? They want to bring down Taiwan because they want to seize the only independent chip maker country in the world, because then they want to capture that and really have that under their control. So this is really a competitive thing. India is playing both the groups. We are more comfortable with the other group. But I think the Chinese realize that don't push India too much. They don't want to push you completely into the other group. So they're carrying you along and they've made this. But we'll have to be very watchful.
Very interesting the way you're putting it there, KC Singh. There are lots of geopolitical and geostrategic issues involved here. I just want to bring in Mr. Tangen again. Mr. Tangen, the border standoff ended decades of peace. As I said earlier, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi had 18 formal meetings between 2014 and 19. Mahabalipuram, Ahmedabad, it all seemed very positive. Then we saw what happened in Ladakh, and the element of trust was gone. Many are asking in India today, can India trust China? Can we trust Beijing?
Well, I would say that you would have people in China who would say the same thing. Trust is not built through words. It is built through actions. So if there's going to be a return to trust, it has to be slow, it has to be steady, and it has to be consistent.
But Mr. Tangen, what did China achieve when they upset decades of peace that was prevalent on the border? What did China gain from the last 5 years?
Well, that's the problem. From India's point of view, China was at fault. From China's point of view, India is at fault. But at this juncture, the only thing that matters is that these two countries, civilizations, are able to talk to each other, to sit down and have their leaders figure out a way to bring about a consensus of ideas about how to settle issues, not go to war.
You know, General Kulkarni, give us an insight into what the military leadership thinks about China. How do you all, when you were in the service, how do you all see China? Do you see it as an enemy? Do you see it as an adversary? Is there a trust factor given the fact that there have been from time to time these border skirmishes? How does the military view China? Forget the diplomats for a moment, forget the politicians. How do the generals on the border view it?
Rajdeep, well, I retired in 2016. Until then, I had wonderful relationship because I conducted a lot of border personnel meetings. I kept interacting with them on various levels. And I really thought at that point of time that both the countries seemed to be doing well. Even the word that they used this time, she saying ancient civilization. Even at Bumla, when I was there, I put that word on the board, ancient civilization at Bumla. And we were really looking at it that things will look novel and things were looking brighter. Till 2020. And that is what surprises me, even till date, having retired in 2016, as to why did China do what they did in 2020. And there was no requirement. And I still would maintain that it is not difficult to go to status quo ante 2020, because that is something which is doable. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've been interacting with them. And there were how many kampai with them, I don't know. So much of love and affection that existed on ground. There was never a problem till these kind of things started occurring in 2019 and 2020 and thereon, all this. I'm myself quite surprised, and I'm sure, I feel that if it came from top, now again if it is coming from top for normalization
would
of
you trust them?
And positive
given what happened, given what happened in Galwan, would you trust them today?
See, trust is something like, actions speak louder than words. We have to do it on ground. It's very, very important. And that trust deficit, because what they did in 2020, obviously we feel, let down, a stab in the back, that when everything was going hunky-dory, everything was fine. Why did they do that? I sincerely hope they do not repeat and do not do that. An opportunity which we must not miss, and an opportunity which would give both the countries to do well.
Anand Krishnan, you also was skeptical, said we need to trust, find out whether the Chinese act and walk the talk on the ground. Do you believe, therefore, while what has happened today is a welcome step, we are still in for a long period where we will test each other out over the next 12 to 18 months?
Absolutely. I would say that the government was slightly more wise in terms of taking this more cautious approach. First it has to be, as I said earlier, it has to be translated on the ground, how the Chinese react to it. Just to go back, the details or whatever the sketchy details there are now are only from the MEA. The MOFA, or the Chinese Foreign Ministry, has simply only acknowledged that there has been some progress in negotiations, but they have not come out with actual details. So one has to actually see things for things to be believed. So that is how the approach will be. But there are other issues. In fact, the economic angle is always going to be salient. There is already talk of, especially if you look at the economic survey, there is call for more Chinese investments. So those aspects have also played a role in actually getting things, there seems to be a little hurry in getting things normalized. So those things are also going to play out. And already, even when in the last 4 years, when things were slightly cold, even then there has been pressures from within even ministries so that the visa process for Chinese technicians to be normalized. For more Chinese components, the reliance on that is something which is still there. So that is something which also needs to be remembered. So the Indian manufacturing sector or India's manufacturing ambitions is also somehow intrinsically connected with China and Chinese investment. So at least in the short to medium term, while the trust is definitely going to be an issue, but you might have to do business with China.
You know, interestingly, in the fiscal year 2024, bilateral trade between India and China reached what? US dollars 118.4 billion. A quick final word, KC Singh, just 30 seconds. Do you believe, therefore, we should go back to full-blown economic ties? If you recall, in 2020, there was a pushback, not just with the TikToks of the world, but there was pressure on Indian companies to possibly try and reduce their dependence on China. Can that happen, or do you believe inevitably Indian-Chinese business has to grow together?
No, I think a little more balance has to be brought into it. And the Chinese have non-tariff barriers. They have to start relaxing them. Now, you can't, when investment comes in, we've seen the Chinese investment has always got hidden elements to it. The Western countries are not stupid. Americans are not stupid. And the other thing is, if you have an excess amount of Chinese investment coming into cutting edge sectors of the economy, the Americans may pull back because they'll be worried about their technology getting pulled away by the Chinese from there. So you can't be playing this game where you want to be part of the supply chains that America is trying to create as an alternative to the Chinese supply chains, and then open the thing to the Chinese. I think it'll be selective. Certainly in the very critical sectors, we have to be very watchful. Huawei and so on and so forth, the Europeans are not stupid that they shut the door on them. Therefore, it shouldn't be. There is a lobby in India which wants the Chinese door to be open to the Chinese, but they're only looking at economic and financial benefits. The national security angle has to be kept in mind.
Okay, let's leave it there, KC Singh. As always, to you and all my guests, thanks very much for joining me and giving us a perspective amidst all the photo ops. I think it's often good to step back and get a sense of the larger picture, which hopefully our viewers have got with that discussion on China. Thank you all very much for joining me. Let me turn for another of our specials tonight. Rocked by a spate of bomb hoax threats, the Indian aviation sector is facing turbulent times. While the government is now mulling an amendment of air safety laws and strict legislation against hoax callers, the centre today pulled up social media platform X, accusing it of abetting the hoax crimes. Airlines and passengers are suffering, but what's the solution to end this bomb hoax crisis? In a moment, I'll be joined by the Civil Aviation Minister, but first take a look at this report.
No end to the scare in the skies. More than 150 flights received fake bomb threats in just a week. And of the 150, as many as 41 flights were operating on international routes. After a series of hoax bomb threats, the centre pulled up social media giant X for its handling of the situation, as many of the threats emanated from its users. The centre claimed the actions of X amounts to abetting crime. The sharp words came during a virtual meeting that was called by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology with officials of airlines and social media platforms X and Meta.
Scathing observation has also come in the wake of Delhi police that during its investigation not able to find out the credentials of multiple accounts on social media platform X, which is seen posting threatening messages.
Investigators identified 11 fake social media accounts used in sending fake bomb alerts to airlines. Among the airlines, Indigo and Akasa Air were the worst affected. At least 26 flights of Indigo and 20 of Akasa were sent fake messages, mostly through social media and email, about the presence of bombs in their aircraft. Vistara was the third most affected airline with 19 flights, followed by Air India Express 11 and Air India and SpiceJet 6 each. Bureau Report, India Today.
And joining me now is one of our newsmakers tonight. I'm joined by Mr. Ram Mohan Naidu, the country's Civil Aviation Minister. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Naidu. 9 days, more than 170 flights operated by Indian carriers receiving bomb threats, mostly through social media. Is this seen to be part of some plot or conspiracy to disrupt air travel at this crucial period or to spread panic among air travelers? How is the government seeing it?
I wouldn't make any hasty decision on this. Let us wait for the thorough investigation to happen. Once we get hold of who is behind this, only then we can tell if there is a conspiracy or if there is some intention regarding the festive season or trying to affect the airlines. But right now, from what we are seeing, all the threats, most of them are happening through social media. So we are trying to register the cases in proper channel through the protocol, and we are trying to catch whoever is behind this, because there is a lot of IT, internet involved in this. So let us get to the bottom of it and let's get hold of them, and then we can make a comment on this.
As you are saying that you all are investigating this, wanting to get to the bottom of it, but do you see a pattern? Is it that this could be some group operating? Could it be outside India, within India? Because they all seem to be using social media posts. Is there any leads that you have that should give people, to give yourself and the people a sense of who could be behind it at all?
No, a couple of things let me mention. One, like I've said, most of them are happening through social media. So we are trying to track them through the IP address. But one interesting thing, what happens is, even if the IP address shows that it comes from maybe some other country, they can be rerouted through the VPN. So it is not exactly my purview to tell like where exactly it is coming from. The intelligence agencies, the necessary departments, they're all looking through it. But let me tell the people of the country that we are putting all the efforts that are required so that our skies are safe. If you see over the last 8 days, every day there are 4,000 flights that are taking off and landing in this country. So if you take the entire 8 days, what you're talking about, there have been 32,000 flights. And out of these 32,000 flights, no matter what kind of threats we have got, we have tried to minimize the diversions also, and following the strict protocol that we have to follow. Let me also tell you, Rajdeep, that whenever this kind of threat happens, even if the intuition says that it might be a hoax, we don't want to take any chance, because the lives are important, the security aspect is important. So we are going through all the protocol that is required. Safety and security for the air skies and airlines is very, very important. But we realize that when these kind of incidents happen, there is certain inconvenience also that comes along. So what we have done, we have kept the airport security regulator on continuous dynamic situations so that he improvises. They are all taking into account, they're learning. They're learning from day one how the incidents happen, day two, what kind of messages they are getting. And they're trying to decode everything and come up with a very live situation on what best we can do so that we can minimize the diversions, we can minimize the inconvenience, but at the same time maintain the strict safety and security protocol.
You know, Mr. Naidu, the reason I asked you about domestic threat, or are these threats coming from abroad, because your Minister of State for Civil Aviation, Muralidhar Mohol, was quoted as saying at least 70 to 80% of the bomb threats are found to be from abroad. Is that confirmed, or are you all still in the process of investigating?
No, it is. I would say it is still in the process. I wouldn't confirm that it is coming from abroad, because like I said, they can be rerouted through the VPN. So unless the investigation is done and the respective department tells me that, see, this is what has happened exactly, I don't want to make a comment on that.
You know, the fact is the cost of such threats, Mr. Naidu, both for the airlines, estimated around 600 crore loss because of these threats in just 9 days. You've mentioned that any person who is found will be put on a no-fly list. Am I
Absolutely.
clear that that's the first step that you all are taking? That if once
Absolutely.
you find out who's behind these hoaxes, whether whoever they are, you will make sure that they're all put under the no-fly list. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I sympathize with the airlines, especially like you said, there is a financial inconvenience also that comes into play when these kinds of threats happen. And we have been getting suggestions and opinions from the airlines itself on how to get this done in a better way. And one thing, so that it acts as a deterrent for people. If they're trying to do it as a prank with some issues they have personally with some other people who are traveling on the plane, which seems to be some of the incidents that have happened like. So that is why, to make it a deterrent for people to not use the air skies for these kind of hoax calls, we are trying to put them, once we identify that this person was behind this, we want to put him in the no-ban list, no-fly list. And also, we are trying to change an act also. We are trying to amend an act, which is the Swastika Act, it's the suppression of unlawful activities against safety of civil aviation. So we are trying to put in a point where we feel that there needs to be a certain amendment which caters for the offenses which, when the plane is on ground or at the airport. So we have found out that if we can put it, then we can take a stricter action on the people who are into these kind of threats.
You know, the reason again that I persist with asking this, Mr. Minister, is that there have been some. You're saying it's not sure whether this is a prank or whether this is part of some larger conspiracy. But you might have noticed that there are some elements, separatist elements, those who we've designated terrorists in the United States, like Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, who are saying we will blow up an Air India plane, making all these threats. It seems that someone wants to disrupt the sector, spread fear and panic among passengers.
Yes. Yes, some might be taking benefit of the situation also. But let me tell you that this started, this whole repeated kind of threats, I think 8 days back. And since day one itself, we have put everything on alert. We have increased the surveillance at the airports. And we have increased the CC cameras also wherever required. We are increasing the surveillance, and there is 10% additional checking also at the security points at the airports. So we are improving the security aspect at the airports and not taking anything lightly. But at the same time, we are coming up with efficient methods so that we can dispose of when we feel that there is a hoax threat or there is a very non-specific kind of threat happening. Then how do we dispose it of is also being looked at, and that is how we are improving day by day.
Is there any reason why now? Because this is a festive season. There'll be lots of travelers, as you say. There are thousands of flights taking off every day. Do you all see any connection with this? Is this being now, the Mumbai police has also registered an FIR. Is this now being seen as a threat which needs to be tackled multi-agency to find out who's behind it?
See, like I said, because it has been happening over the last 8 days, we are trying to take some more stricter action into this, and that is how the no-fly list has come into play. The amendment into the act has also come into play. And little more, I think we are coordinating with the Home Affairs, with the intelligence agencies, and also the law department agencies. And we want to bring everyone together, and combinedly, if we tackle this, I think that is when we are going to reach where we exactly want to be.
One final question. You've said that this will be a cognizable offense. Anyone who issues a hoax bomb threat, it's a cognizable offense. But you've also interestingly said that the social media giant, that's Twitter, could be accused of abetting the crime, because all these hoax calls, many of them are coming through social media. Is there a plan to also warn against allowing social media to be used in this way? Do you have any power, considering that much of this happens in real time?
See, whenever these kind of threats happen, when it is a matter of security concern, all the necessary concerned stakeholders should all align with the national security plan, and they should all support it. And with that intention, we are also talking with these handles. And I think the IT department is also strongly pursuing these cases from their side, so that they also offer their support and try to help us in getting the investigation done in a much efficient and faster way. So we are trying to rope in all the stakeholders and bring them on the same platform. And definitely, I would say that everyone should be aligned in times of these. In the topmost priority is the national security. So everything should be aligned according to that.
So in conclusion, you're telling passengers not to worry, that you're on top of the situation, that this is not a moment to spread any kind of fear and panic. Am I correct?
absolutely. And I'm very happy that you've called me in for this, because through you also, I would like to tell the people of the country that definitely there is nothing to fear. We are in control of the situation. We have increased the security at the airports. We are not taking the threats, whatever it comes, even if it is 99.99%. It looks like it is a hoax call also. We are following the protocol. We are ensuring that everything gets thoroughly done. And we are improvising day by day. And we are also coming up with these amendments in the Act. So this is all going to help us, not just for tackling the situation right now, but in future also, if something of these sorts tries to repeat itself, we are in a much better position to tackle it.
Mr. Minister, for joining me and in a way reassuring passengers in this big festive season that don't worry, we are under control. These bomb hoax threat calls will be tackled. I appreciate you joining me here on the news today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And advance happy Diwali, Rajdeep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, from there, let's turn to another of our top political stories. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra kicking off Mission Wayanad by filing her nomination today. The seat has been vacated by her brother Rahul Gandhi, is now considered a Congress stronghold. Will the Priyanka factor work? The Gandhis held a mega show of strength in Wayanad, with Rahul tabling an emotional appeal for his sister as she tries to make her parliament debut. Take a look.
Priyanka Gandhi Vadra crosses the Rubicon. The Congress General Secretary on Wednesday filed her nomination from Wayanad constituency in Kerala to contest the Lok Sabha by-poll. She was accompanied by Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge, husband Robert Vadra and son Rehan as she submitted her documents marking her entry into electoral politics. The day began with a roadshow attended by hundreds of supporters that ended with a public meeting.
It is now 35 years. I have campaigned for my mother, I have campaigned for my brother, for many of my colleagues. This is the first time that I am campaigning for your support for myself, and it is a very different feeling.
The Congress candidate recounted her visit to the landslide-hit villages of Wayanad 2 months ago. She paid tribute to the victims of Wayanad landslide by visiting the burial where the thousands of people were buried.
A few months ago, I visited Churamala and Guttakkai with my brother. I saw the devastation with my own eyes. I met people whose entire lives had been washed away by the landslide. And I was struck by one thing, that each and every person I met, whether it was a doctor, a teacher, a housewife, anybody, they were engaged in helping each other.
Rahul Gandhi, who vacated the Wayanad seat to keep Rai Bareli, sought support for his sister.
I'd like to remind you, in case you forget, that Wayanad is the only constituency in the country that has 2 members of parliament. One is the official member of parliament and the other is the unofficial member of parliament. And they will both work together to protect the interests of the people of Wayanad.
The Wayanad by-poll will see a 3-way contest between Priyanka Gandhi, LDF's Satyan Mokri and BJP's Navya Haridas.
Rahul Gandhi parayappettadana avudunnu parayapettittaanu Wayanadilottu vannathu adupole thanne leader parayapettu aarokke parayapettittundu Priyankakkum parayapeda 2014 ഒരു വോട്ടിംഗ് പാറ്റേൺ ഉണ്ട് 20000 വോട്ടിനാണ് LDF പിറകെ പോയിട്ടുള്ളത് അതാണ് അവിടുത്തെ അടിത്തറ അത് ഓർമ്മപ്പെടുത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് അത് ശക്തിപ്പെടുത്തിക്കൊണ്ടുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളാണ് LDF നടത്താൻ പോകുന്നത്.
And we are getting a very good positive response from the people of Wayanad, not only from the BJP workers but all the public is also supporting BJP a lot. I think for Congress it's going to be a tough election this time because they have lost the faith in people of Wayanad. Rahul Gandhi had given a promise to the people of Wayanad that he is going to be with them for the next 5 years. But now, soon after he had won the seat in Rai Bareli, he left Wayanad.
The Wayanad by-poll begins a new chapter in Priyanka's political innings. An effective campaigner, the Congress leader now hopes to enter parliament, following in the footsteps of her grandmother, father, mother and brother. With Shivimol KG and Mausami Singh, In Wayanad, Bureau Report, India Today.
And I thank you for your love. നിങ്ങളുടെ സ്നേഹത്തിന് ഞാൻ നിങ്ങളോട്
Let's turn to tonight's other special report, and it comes from Mumbai, where India's women cricketer Jemimah Rodrigues finds herself in an unfortunate controversy. Jemimah was stripped of her membership of the prestigious Mumbai Khar Gymkhana club. The decision to cancel her membership was taken by the committee members of the club after it was pointed out that her father carried out religious activities on the club premises. However, Jemimah wasn't given a chance to explain, and the club president has a very different story to tell. Take a look.
Indian cricketer Jemimah Rodrigues is caught in a controversy. Khar Gymkhana, one of Mumbai's oldest clubs, has cancelled an honorary 3-year membership given to Jemimah. The club members voted on October 20th to revoke the membership, accusing the cricketer's father, Ivan Rodrigues, of engaging in religious activities, an attempt to convert on club's premises.
We have the highest regard for Jemimah as a player, but I think she knew that this privilege was afforded to her to play cricket, and for every booking that takes place, there is a separate form filled up, which you have to fill up for what purpose, for whose use. She should have been mindful that she's filling up forms. 35 events are taking place. There was a booking for maybe another 25 right up to November. I guess, I mean, that is the least she should have taken care of. She's not a kid, she's an adult.
Club members say Rule 4A of the Khar Gymkhana constitution does not permit any religious activity.
When this matter came up, I certainly raised this issue because it was causing a loss to our club. And therefore, once I raised this issue, very quickly the president somehow got in touch, probably with her father, and collected the areas of around 350,000 to 360,000 thereafter. That further goes to prove that 35 events were held at a rate that should not have been given.
What strikes me is that as soon as this lady became a member, she started this stuff. And we have got 50 other auditoriums in this. Why only Khar Gymkhana's auditorium? You know? So it's and you know the equipment that I saw inside and this regular payments and there must be some heavy funded organization, you know.
Club President Vivek Devnani confirmed the cancellation of Jemimah's membership, but rejected charges of preferential treatment and discounts for the cricketer. In a statement, Devnani said, Khar Gymkhana is scheduled to have its managing committee and trustee elections later this month. Considering this fact, it should be evident that these allegations are being made with political motives. Jemimah's family did not respond to the charges. In 2023, Khar Gymkhana had invited Jemimah to be a member and use club facilities. The 24-year-old is the first woman cricketer to get membership of Khar Gymkhana.
Several members have pointed out to Devnani's wrongdoings and also her father Ivan Rodrigues as to why he was allowed to hold nearly about 36 events of religious processions and conversion in a span of 1 year. That is averaging about 3 such events per month. Not only just that, heavy equipments through this very gate. If I can ask my camera person Swapnil to show towards the gate, this very gate, tempos have entered and filled with very heavy equipments, LED screens, several massive speakers that were brought inside the club in the auditorium where the functions continued to be held. With cameraman Swapnil, Dev Kodak for India Today, Mumbai.
You know what? Clubs and gymkhanas are dens of politics. Perhaps they can teach a lesson or two to our real-life politicians as well. Let's hope that this issue gets sorted sooner rather than later. Let's leave it at that. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Good night. Shubhratri. Jai Hind. Namaskar.